The guess is that Ohio State is heading to the Rose Bowl. We will all find that out at noon on Sunday. The playoffs will be announced. If Ohio State is not in the playoff, they're not going to announce the Rose Bowl till like 3 o'clock. But if Ohio State's not in the playoff, Ohio State is going to the Rose Bowl as the Big Ten champ. That is guaranteed. Stephen Means, Doug Lesmeri. There's a lot of playoff talk, obviously. We're here at Lucas Oil. Just watched Ohio State beat Northwestern. So if it is the Rose Bowl, and if it is, it would be against Washington. What do we expect from that? How should Ohio State fans view that? How should this team view that if they wind up in the Rose Bowl?
From talking to a lot of the players today, they're not going to view it as necessarily a failure the way that maybe fans or us as media may view it as a failure because of the standard that Ohio State has set. I talked to Benjamin Victor, and he said, quite frankly, yeah, I think it is over-exaggerated a little bit because of where we go to school. But getting to the Rose Bowl is a big deal still. That's still a quality bowl game. And as far as what will happen in that game, I think they're going to win that game. Now, I'm not going to overdo it where they're just going to blow them out the water, even though I do think they're going to blow them out the water. I think it'll be like this game where, like, there's going to be a point in the game where it's competitive. And that's what we saw tonight. That's what we saw tonight in the Big Ten Championship. We saw at some point in the game it got a little bit competitive. Some of that is because of some of the faults on the defensive end, and some of that is just because that's Ohio State at this point. There's always a point in the game where it gets a little bit competitive, and they can withstand that. They usually come out on top, and they usually end up blowing out teams, and that's what we saw today.
I said I'm going to call Washington with Wisconsin Northwest if we get to that Rose Bowl. I'm not sure Washington is scarier offensively than Northwestern was. I don't know. The Pac-12 championship game, I watched it. It was like -6 to -8 at one point. Nobody could score. So I kind of wish Mike Leach and Washington State would be there from the Pac-12. It's going to be Washington. Excuse my cough. I do think Ohio State likes the idea of like trying to prove they're a gigantic bully in college football. So they embrace the fact, and again, Urban Meyer's 7-0 as an underdog. They would not be an underdog against Washington, but they'd be an underdog in the idea of like, we didn't make the playoff. And here's the difference. Last year, Alabama was the 4 seed that beat them out, and then Alabama won the national title. So it was like the argument of like, hey, we should have made it in ahead of Alabama is like, you mean you should have made it in above the national champion? Kind of got lost. This year, if they're number 4, if they're number 5 and Oklahoma's number 4, or God forbid Georgia's number 4, which would be awful, I think they would have a chance to like, because the Rose Bowl is going to be played after the playoffs, because the playoff games are on December 29th, the Rose Bowl's on January 1st. If that 4, say Oklahoma gets in and gets blown off the field by Alabama, which I think would be on the table, then you can go to the Rose Bowl and try to kick Washington's butt and say, see, you picked the wrong team. I think that would be a very motivating factor to prove people wrong. Ohio State seems to like stuff like that. So if it's the Rose Bowl, the opponent will stink. You won't be interested in Washington at all, but it will be Urban Meyer's first Rose Bowl, and maybe they'll be trying to show people they should have been a playoff team. He's Steven. I'm Doug. Thanks for watching at cleveland.com.